I wanted to do something that had the magic of musicals but also had the texture and grit of real life. The open secret to La La Land is that it is first and foremost a compelling modern drama that is masquerading as a musical. This is what the film owes a large share of its success to. It builds the foundation of a moving drama and places it within the world of a musical, with all the cinematic language and visual cues that pay homage to the classics of the 50s and earlier. It seems that most musicals are stories that typically work in the musical genre, stories that lend themselves to a character spontaneously bursting into song without the audience thinking, why is this person singing?
Why?
This is helped by the world in which the story exists, whether that world be fantastical, comedic, or simply already centered around music. There are certainly other more grounded musicals leaning more into the drama genre. However, La La Land seems to have bridged this gap perfectly between unashamedly embracing the musical tropes of the past while simultaneously conveying a compelling modern drama. I think the test of this is imagining the film without the musical element to it. Can you imagine it? What kind of film would it end up being? It feels like the musical element is simply enhancing the story, rather than the story relying on the traditional tropes and pillars of a musical. And while the performances of Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling are pitch perfect, equally they are not the most technically perfect singing and dancing performances you'll be able to find. And that's because they're not meant to be. They're meant to be real people with imperfections and shortfalls. So how does Damien Chazelle achieve this bridging of genres? Take Mia's auditions. Early on in the film, we're shown the brutal, factory-like process of auditions as she gives a De Niro-quality performance, only to be interrupted midway through and subsequently told,
You know what? I think we're good. Thanks for coming in.
Much later on, Mia gets invited to an audition from a prominent casting director. The circumstances of this second audition have none of the hectic, ultra-competitive energy of the previous one. This time, whilst completely unstructured and without a script, Mia has control and a sense of freedom to her. A freedom which leads her into telling the casting crew the story of her aunt, a former theatre actress who inspired her to chase her dreams. Her telling of the story begins humbly and quietly, and Mia's transition from speaking into singing feels natural and unforced, supported by the visual dimming of lights to just one spotlight. Before long, Mia's quiet, almost whisper-like singing transforms into a belting showstopper that could sit shoulder to shoulder with any classic show tune of the past. This song isn't simply added in to make the scene more dramatic. It's Mia's journey from a struggling actress to now on the cusp of stardom, whilst being a cathartic resolution to the many thwarted dead-end auditions she's had to endure thus far. So, how else? Mia and Sebastian's characters retread familiar narrative arcs of artists following their dreams against a myriad of closed doors and setbacks. However, it's coupled with these two characters that are battling the hurdles of their own relationship and how they can both support the other's ambitions whilst also fulfilling their own. It's one of the most coherent portrayals of a couple struggling with the complexities of compromise in their relationship, and one that is ultimately their relationship's undoing. And it's this narrative thread that underpins the beautifully executed final sequence where we don't get the happy ending for them as a couple, but instead we get an immensely satisfying what could have been sequence. Chazelle doesn't shy away from the pain of their heartache, but rather leans into it with a climax of music, dancing, and art that tips its hat to the classics of the past. La La Land isn't trying to reinvent the musical. In many instances, it's doing the exact opposite. It's paying homage to the cornerstones of the genre, but the difference to other more recent musicals is that it's completely self-aware of embracing these tropes, while simultaneously fusing them into a modern and at times painful story. It takes its characters seriously, and they don't play second fiddle to the music and songs, but instead both elements interweave in a seamless and naturalistic way. Chazelle has achieved this where it feels like other musicals have not. Rather than smoothing over the cracks of real life, it lets them show, and it's all the more successful for doing so.